Let's get loud. These people aren't going to change if they don't hear you. What do you want? When do you want it? What do you want? When do you want it? One more time. What do you want? When do you want it? Then we're going to have it. Like you, I'm here because of the grave injustice that's been done, that's represented by the coffins that are lined up here. 138 of our brothers and sisters were killed because their employers didn't care enough about their health or their safety and placed profits over their lives. So we're here to say that that is an atrocity and that we will not stand by silently while that happens. Like most of you, I'm a Texan who's ashamed of the fact that this is the deadliest state for construction workers in the entire union. And I'm here to tell our legislators that that also has got to change. I'm here to say we have a duty to make Texas safe for all of its citizens, all of its people, all human beings. But also I'm here as a person of faith and these others behind me to say we are not innocent of this blood unless we do something to change Texas and make it safe. Some of the voices we're going to hear today are sad. In addition to the 138 individuals, every one of them was a father or a mother or a brother, a sister, a son or a daughter. They're going to be angry voices who believe that the poor are not just tools to use and throw away, who believe that when an employer values profit and puts a worker's life in danger, that they have committed cold-blooded murder. But we're not here simply to grieve, to mourn the dead. We are here to give a gift to the living, and that is workers' compensation for every construction worker in Texas. The Workers' Defense Project stands between the working poor and employers who do not value their lives. The Workers' Defense Project stands behind the working poor and equips them, educates, but also stands shoulder to shoulder as equals to work together to make this a better world. For too long in Texas, the poor have been laid on the altar of obscene wealth. It's time for this ancient Holocaust to come to an end. The duty we come here today is not just a good cause, it's a sacred one. Thank you for being here. If progressive Texans built a Mount Rushmore, there'd be three faces for sure on it: Molly Ivins, Ann Richards, and our next speaker, Jim Hightower.
It's an honor to be here with you this Day of the Fallen, but we're not here merely to honor the fallen in terms of their memory. We're here to honor the fallen with our action. That's what it's going to take to make a difference, so we don't have to keep having Days of the Fallen here in Texas. We are here for, un poquito justicia, just a little bit of justice. We're not asking for the whole thing. If there were real justice, construction workers would have Wall Street bonuses and Wall Street banksters would have construction worker wages. Now that would be justice. We're after possibility of building a better Texas. The Reverend William Sloan Coffin, back during the Vietnam War period, he would tell his congregation, he would urge them to do more than they had been doing, and he would tell them, God loves you the way you are, but he knows you can do better. And that's what I say to our state. We know you can do better. An abysmal record on workplace safety. That banner over there says it all. Another construction worker dies in Texas every 2.5 days. Imagine if CEOs of Zachary, Spallglass, Bartlett Cock, Workman, or any other big construction corporations, imagine if they were dying on the job in their air-conditioned suites at the rate of 2.5 a day. They'd declare a national emergency, wouldn't they? Rick Perry himself would seek federal intervention to do something about it. But the truth is, Too many of our corporate executives, too many of the profiteers on those construction companies, too many of the corporate politicians, they see workers as cheap, workers as expendable, throwaway people. Well, that's why we have got to step forward, you and I. We must push our lawmakers to put ethics back in the Texas work ethic. That'd be a nice thing, wouldn't it? Let's go that far. As the Workers' Defense Project puts it, together we can build a better Texas. And together is the key phrase there. For too long, we've been waiting on the workers to do it for themselves. Well, that's not the way it works. We can't do it ourselves, but together we can. We can bring justice to the Texas workplace. Thank you for what you're doing.
The real heroes here are the workers, the courageous people that have built Texas.
Mi nombre es Santiago Arias. Yo trabajaba antes en la construcción. Tuve una caída de 30 pies de altura de un edificio.
My name is Santiago Arias. I was a construction worker before, but I fell 30 feet. I never had safety training or the right equipment and safety equipment to protect my life.
No he tenido hasta la fecha ningún apoyo económico de mi patrón.
At present date, I haven't received any economic support from my employer. I am going through an incredibly difficult economic time. Also my family, because my children have had to give up going to school. They had to go into work so that we could survive. It's important for workers to stand up and demand the right equipment to do their jobs. It's important that the government give workers the tools so that these kinds of accidents don't happen, because it is a difficult life to be in a wheelchair like I currently am now. It's not worth $400 to be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. There's no economical support, and there's no money for us to help us pay for our medication because there's no workers' compensation. When we are helping build this state, we are wanted, but when we are hurt and injured, we are tossed aside.
It's really sad to live in a place that you have to say that human beings aren't just worth it in and of themselves. Somebody has to make that argument that it's good business not to kill people.
In May of 2008, I organized a nonprofit called Homeowners of Texas because due to a personal experience that we'd had building our home, I'd come to realize that home builders in Texas can get away with virtually anything. They can defraud homeowners by shoddy construction, they can steal their money, they can fail to pay subcontractors, and the homeowner has very little chance or opportunity to recover the damages they've suffered. The same kinds of builders who treat homeowners that way will treat workers that way. They will abuse workers, they will absolutely throw them in the trash can if they get hurt because they simply don't care. Everything is done for the profit motive, and it doesn't matter who gets hurt. These folks have no conscience. We have today a law in Texas. We're the only state out of 50 that has a law that does not mandate workers' compensation. And this is particularly acute in the construction industry, where the worker injury rate is more than 3 times the average for all other industries combined. It doesn't take a genius to see what's going on here. The contractors who do the right thing, who purchase workers' compensation, who care about their workers, are at a disadvantage with the contractors who don't care. And the ones who don't care get to make more money and get more business. It's time that we stop this practice. Today, the abuse of workers is costing all of us. It's costing the taxpayers of Texas in uncompensated medical expenses that should be covered by workers' comp. It's costing us in poor construction of homes because workers are abused and tired and overworked and underpaid. And it's costing everybody in the form of higher health insurance rates. We're all paying a price. And why? Because once again, the upper 2% are instituting policies through their allies here in the legislature, and we all know who they are. They're passing laws to benefit those 2% at the expense of everyone else. And they simply don't care what happens to anybody as long as they make the maximum amount of profit possible. It's time for us to raise our voices so that they will hear us and realize that the people of Texas are not in favor of the status quo. We want change, we want justice, and we want it now. Thank you.
My name is Eddie Lucio, and I represent the senatorial district that is in the southern tip of Texas. My district is typical of many parts of our great state of Texas. It is growing rapidly, attracting new businesses. And despite the financial hardships and hard times, people are optimistic about the future. Because we are a growing population, there's a lot of construction where I live. New buildings are going up as new businesses are coming in. Homes are being built to accommodate our vibrancy, our growth. I want to thank the construction workers of Texas for making the Valley's story possible. You are here for the state of Texas. The state of Texas needs to be here for you. That's simple. That's why, along with State Representative Armando Wally, I have filed Senate Bill 938. It is a very simple bill. It simply requires Texas to do what every other state in the nation does. It requires employers to provide workers' compensation. This bill is reasonable, and it is the right thing to do. If you put 20 construction workers in a room, 20, only 9 of those workers would have workers' comp. 4 of those 20 would have been seriously injured on the job. That means that in every room you would have people who will have been left to fend for themselves after accidents, and that is a travesty. They may be dealing with debt as a result of their injuries. Hospitals and taxpayers often will have footed the bill. It was mentioned earlier. This is a story, ladies and gentlemen, that has played out too many times in our state. It isn't right. Worst of all, though, as we remember today, Texas is the most dangerous place to work in construction. The year before last, 138 people died on the job. That is a statistic that belongs in the 19th century, not the 21st century. We need better protections for the hands that are building in Texas. They're building our great state. We need a level playing field for construction companies that play by the rules and look after their workers, and there are some, and I commend them here today. Why should they be at a disadvantage by caring more about worker safety? I want to thank you for coming out here today, and I encourage you to keep coming, to keep telling lawmakers that we need to do better. I've been here 24 years, ladies and gentlemen. I worked with some outstanding people, and my heart was full of joy when I saw Jim Hightower a little while ago, our former agriculture commissioner. He and I worked in the 1980s, and I can tell you, he's still full of energy, and he still has the heart that I like to see in elected officials when it comes to addressing the issues that have a positive impact for our state. We have today a tremendous shortfall, but we need to make concessions. We need to take care of those priorities that are important to us. The workers of this state is a top priority. We need to continue to listen carefully to what your needs are so that Texas can continue to be the #1 state in our country.
It's important to make sure that safety comes first for our construction industry, because we don't want you to get left behind when you get hurt. Particularly the folks in my district. I have a high immigrant community in my district, and many of those guys work in the construction trade, and sometimes they don't get paid because of unscrupulous contractors that'll pick them up off the side of a road and have them dig ditches or something and then not pay them.
I just have to say about these young activists at the Workers' Defense Project. I've worked at nonprofits from Washington, D.C. on down, and when I saw these young activists take a shoestring budget and have those 138 caskets come down Congress Street, I knew we were on the winning side. That's genius.
Along, we'll know all about it. Farther along, we'll understand why. Cheer up, my sister.